Good afternoon, folks. We're going to get started. Those of you who don't know me, I'm James Bartram. I'm the Education Director for the Canadian Wildlife Federation. And this afternoon, we're going to hear from Scott Sampson, VP of Research and Collections at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, and John Jarvis, Director of the National Park Service. At the end of their talks, you'll have an opportunity to ask them questions. And to facilitate this, you'll find index cards on your seats. Please fill out any questions you have on those cards and give them to the room hosts. And also identify the questions for one of them specifically. So the question and who. So the room host, probably got to. Wave your hand if you're a room host. Okay, so you're going to give your cards to these folks. Then you're going to pass them up to Margaret, and that's how we go. As many of you know, the Nature Connection movement is a personal passion of mine. I'm here today because a friend of mine handed me a copy of Last Child in the Woods and said, you have to read this. Since then, my work in conservation education has led me to numerous new friendships, many of whom are in this room today. When you work hard for something you don't care about, it's stressful. But when working hard for things you believe in, it's called passion. And as Rich pointed out, it's passion that's the long distance view. And it's lifted from the earth itself by the muddy hands of the young, traveling along grass like stained sleeves of the heart. I want to acknowledge today that many of us in conservation who are seeking to rebuild and grow public constituency, especially with youth, owe a debt of gratitude to the Children of Nature Network. You've been a pillar of strength and integrity in this movement, always graciously sharing your work and always welcoming newcomers. Rich said a year or so back, we need a bigger boat. He was right. Well, folks, this gathering is several times bigger than the last. And there were well over 200 other people on the waiting list. We are making real progress towards a tipping point, and you should all be feeling very proud of your contributions. I'm fortunate to work for Canada's largest conservation charity, with a vision to advance connection to nature as a Canadian value. Through CBLF education, we provide many opportunities to connect with iconic species and significant natural habitat in Canada. My team operates at the intersection of experiential education and conservation ethics. For us, personal emotional connection is at the very core of enduring stewardship. It's ultimately people, and not policies or regulations alone, that will determine the long-term well-being of the natural world. We face many challenges as our society continues to evolve. There is work to do in bridging the knowledge gaps. But to my mind, the more pressing task is not that people don't understand, it's that they haven't modified their behaviours. It's the emotional disconnect. As Carson reminds us, if facts are the seeds that later produce knowledge and wisdom, then the emotions and impressions of the senses are the fertile soil in which they grow. We know collaboration is the stuff of growth. I'm very proud of CBLF's emerging partnership with the Children of Nature Network. Most notably manifest in our 3-year commitment to this conference and working together to bring family nature clubs to Canada. Mike Bingley, in partnership with Alan Deanstock, launched our family nature clubs less than a month ago. And already we have over 1,000 families in Ontario and Alberta. Remarkable progress has been made in the past year. The international community is growing from conservation professionals to healthcare to education to corporate social responsibility to grassroots actions in communities around the world. 100 years ago, the big gains in conservation were about lines on a map, about the establishment of parks and other protected lands. In the 60s and 70s was the era of policy. Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act. Folks, the next 25 years are going to be about education and going to be about you. In my mind, nobody says it better than the ICN. The wellspring of our commitment comes from the emotional high we reach when in contact with nature. It's not the depressing accounts of the wildlife we are losing that move us. It's awe, wonder, enhanced by understanding that can inspire us to take action. Conservation and environmental organisations benefit from youth education, our values maintaining their place in national identity. But we must remember that formal education also benefits considerably from the efficacy of nature connection. It's about reciprocity. When I'm talking to ministers and superintendents, I tell them Don't send your students on our nature programs because you think they might experience beauty and have fun. They will. You should send kids quite simply because we know that students that engage in programs such as ours outperform those who don't. Reading, writing, math, high school graduation frequency, and our kids lead more active, healthy lives. In our rapidly changing world, challenge or safeguarding part of what defines us as Canadians, our nature, our wildlife, our protected lands and wild spaces, will not be achieved by any single program protector, however noble. That's why of all the lessons we share with you, all the memories that they carry with them, the iconic images of wildlife and visitors, forever etched into their memories. The lesson that supersedes all others is that all the natural space, protected lands, woodlots, natural playgrounds, and microsites at the end of urban streets, all of this splendor belongs to them. We trust it to be both their responsibility and their joy. Together, we've made a valuable start. The good is not going to be good enough. If we are to honour our children and safeguard our wildlife and special places, we must do it better. If we ever think that we've reached our collective capacity to meet this challenge, we simply need to look to our remarkable youth and the passionate dedication of this group to realise that our capacity in this endeavour may well be limited. Today is tomorrow that we got yesterday. Speaking of tomorrow, in a moment we'll be hearing from our friend Scott. As I imagine many of you know, he's a fellow Canadian who spent his formative years connecting with nature in the remarkable nature-rich city of Vancouver. It brings me great pleasure to announce that 2017 will provide an opportunity for Scott to return home. The 2017 International Children Nature Conference will be hosted in Vancouver, British Columbia. Scott Sampson is a dinosaur paleontologist, science communicator, passionate advocate for connecting with nature. He serves as Vice President of Research and Collections and Chief Curator at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. He's probably best known as Dr. Scott, host and science advisor for the Emmy-nominated PBS Kids TV show Dinosaur Train, produced by the Jim Henson Company. Sampson is also the program ambassador for Nature Rocks, a global initiative of nature conserving aimed at inspiring families to explore nature. The scientific research is focused on the ecology and evolution of dinosaurs. It is conducting field work in many countries, including Kenya, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Madagascar, Mexico, the United States, and Mexico. He has published numerous scientific and popular articles and regularly speaks to audiences of all ages and topics ranging from dinosaurs, education to sustainability and nature. Sampson is the author of Dinosaur Odyssey, Fossil Threads of Weathered Life, and most recently, How to Raise a Wild Child, the art and science of forming love with nature. Thank you. Please put your hands together for your friend of mine, Dr. Scott.
Well, if I do my job right, the next 30 minutes will be a beautiful compliment to Bill Penalosa's talk this morning. I will try and match his passion, though I won't promise. I have to admit that I'm a little intimidated and feeling inadequate given the number of slides I have in my presentation. But I'll do my best to compensate for that. So, I don't know if we can control the ringing at the back, but is it? Okay. So there's two questions that keep me up at night. When I tell you what they are, you'll probably think that I'm a geek, and you're probably right. I will be honest. Paleontology is one of the first words I learned how to spell. There was a time in my life where I could reliably spell paleontology, but not my last name. So that's tough. Question number one. How can humans and nature thrive in cities? I think this is a question we all need to think deeply about. Question number two. How can we scale the children and nature movement, or as Rich News likes to call it, the new nature movement? I'm going to present two answers, or an answer to each question. To the question, how can humans and nature thrive? Get my slide. Can we get my first slide up, please? Okay, I love it. Beautiful. To the question of how do humans and nature thrive, I would answer with the phrase urban wild. I'll explain what that is today. To the question of how do we scale the children and nature movement, I will answer with the notion of collective impact. And I mean this the broadest sense. This is a term that's relatively new, came out of Stanford University, some researchers looking at collaborative projects. I mean it in the broadest sense, and I'll describe what that is. Now, I'm going to start off with a story. This is Dondre Smallwood. Dondre lives in the community of Montbello in northeast Denver. Montbello is known as being a place that's very dangerous. It's a food desert, very poor community. It's violent, and schools are poor. Dondre grew up in this neighborhood, and at the age of 8 years old, Dondre found himself only about a half mile as the crow flies from where he lives, fishing. And he pulled a huge fish out of this place. Somebody yelled, "Northern pike!" And Dondre went, "I have no clue what the heck this thing is, but this is amazing." He had no clue that an animal this size could be living a half mile from his house. Dondre has met this one, Stacy Gilmore. Stacy Gilmore runs an organization called Environmental Learning for Kids, or ELF. And she's been doing this since 1996. Over 1,000 kids have gone through this program, which is a phenomenal program. Stacy and her husband created this community for kids that were lacking a community. Just at the age when kids might be thinking about joining gangs or other alternative careers that would not be good for their health or the health of the community, Stacy, one that was focused on connecting with nature. Now, this is largely a Black and Latino community. These are kids that, for the most part, would never otherwise leave that community. But Stacy got them out into the state park, into the national parks. They were building trails. They were fishing. They even went hunting on some occasions. They did all these things that otherwise they would never do. And now, the lives of these folks have changed. And let me just go back. Oh, I'll just leave it there for a moment. Dondre, now 20 years old, is in college, the first person in his family to go to college. He's taking environmental studies, and Dondre's hope is that he will one day run environmental studies. He is bound and determined to get other kids of color out into nature. And that is absolutely not. We critically need that. Why do we need that? Because we have to be honest with ourselves. At this moment, the Children in Nature movement is largely a white, affluent movement. This has to become a movement for every kid, no matter what their family income, no matter what their skin color, and it's programs like Environmental Learning for Kids that help us get there. So we have to think about how to scale those programs. This is critical, of course, not just for the health of kids, something we all know quite a lot about and talk about, to the point where U.S. Surgeon General has claimed a few years ago that this generation of kids growing up today could be the first to have a life expectancy shorter than average parents. Obesity, disorder, diabetes, depression, all these things. But the Children in Nature movement is also critical, of course, for the health of the places we live. A while ago, Robin Moore was speaking about one health, the health of the planet and the health of the people. I totally agree with that. I would go so far as to say we cannot solve the other major crises of our time, like climate change, and species extinction, and habitat loss, unless people care about what they do. They're going to care if they don't spend time outside. Now, when people talk about rewilding, they generally think about wolves and things like this. And think about Yellowstone. And it's a matter of inserting top carnivores into ecosystems, wolves, bears, mountain lions. And if you know the story of Yellowstone, it's absolutely amazing. Put wolves back in the ecosystem, changes the behavior of herbivores like deer and moose, which no longer feed close to the stream. That makes trees grow into those streams. Beaver come back. The entire ecosystem is transformed from the top down just by inserting top carnivores. The kind of rewilding I'm talking about is a little different. It's bottom up. And it starts with native plants. For those of you who haven't read Bringing Nature Home by Doug Talby, I highly recommend it. Talby he's an entomologist, and his thesis, which is backed up by quite a lot of research, is if you start with nothing but native plants, you can rewild a city. Because native plants attract native insects of many kinds. Huge diversity of native insects, because those insects have evolved to feed on native plants. That's their parent. And of course, once the native insects come back, you get native birds. In a great abundance, in a great diversity, and not just birds, but other kinds of vertebrates. So simply by planting native plants in your backyard, in your schoolyard, in your courtyard, you can be a revolutionary and rewild a city. So this is the kind of urban rewilding that I'm speaking about here. The other aspect about rewilding is minds. Rewilding human minds, human bodies, human spirits. All of this is part of it as well. And this is what, when I talk about urban rewilding, I'm pulling that in there. So you can go to any city in this country, and you will find dozens to hundreds of organizations that are involved with nature. I've already talked about environmental learning for kids. I work at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, and we are actively involved in connecting kids with nature. There are over 100 organizations in Denver that are doing this work. And yet, like every other major city in this country, you can make the argument that at this very moment, people are more disconnected from nature than they have ever been before. So think about all the organizations that we represent. Think about all the amazing work that the people in this room are doing that's transforming lives at the level of dozens, hundreds, thousands, in a few cases like the Children Nature Network, millions of kids. And yet, we have to be honest with ourselves. At some level, at this moment, we are failing to move the needle at the urban scale. So that's why this notion of scaling keeps me up. How do we go about partnering and scaling over time? Well, that brings us to this notion of collective impact, and I think about it as a Swiss Army knife. If we do collective impact well, we don't just form partnerships. We form a whole that is far greater than the sum of the parts. We leverage the unique aspects of every organization to do things that no one organization can do on their own. So every organization becomes a different tool on the Swiss Army knife. And that tool can be applied to any community in the city in which it exists to help that community grow in ways that it needs to grow. But here's an important point. When working with diverse underserved communities, and we've been learning this again and again in Denver, you can't figure out what you're going to do and then go and do it to a community. You have to do it with the community. And that means the community has to be with you right from the beginning, right from the planning process on up, so that you're doing things that they want to do. In Montello, for example, where Don lives, they've identified food and education as their two biggest priorities. And guess what? Nature connection can help with both of those areas. So this is the way I like to think about collective impact. So now the question is, if we were to collaborate in every major city, and I think cities are the right focal level, countries are too big, so are states, neighborhoods are too small, mayors are the politicians that really get stuff done. If we were to do this, what are the things we should focus on? I'd like to say three things. Sorry, one more thing before that. I want to acknowledge, before going any further, this is hardly a new idea, that thanks to Richmond and Doug Talby, Toronto has what they call a homegrown national park. Green strip going through the city. They have citizens that have been identified as green. And if we go around this country, in Chicago, in Houston, in LA, in Cleveland, in Portland, there are these Metro Green Space Alliances that are forming and working collaboratively to do things that none of these organizations can do on their own. I also want to acknowledge the National League of Cities and Children Nature Network, this recent alliance that's formed that has the potential to nationally leverage resources to help cities move in this direction. Okay, so 3 areas. Most of us, when we think about the Children in Nature movement, we think about the present day. We think about getting kids and kids with nature mentors outside. These are arguably the two most important things: abundant time spent in nature in the company of an adult to share the journey with you. We need to keep pushing that on a campaign level. We need to help kids to notice nature, to really see what's there, to open up their senses, all of their senses, not just sight. Because right now, for the most part, we walk through and we miss it. And as grown-ups, we need to start valuing and noticing nature as well, and develop nature mentors and parents. We need to let kids engage with nature. As I write, nature connection is a contact sport, and both kids and nature can take it. It doesn't mean that we let kids run rampant through our national parks, but we could put aside chunks of those parks for kids to play in. Too often these days, we tell kids no. David Sobel's written about this. When a kid wants to pick up a rock, or a stick, or climb a tree, or jump in the mud, we say no. We have to start saying yes and applaud that behavior, and really start a campaign that's about truly engaging with nature. Food is another part of this. We have somehow broken the equation that food equals nature. Very few of us, and I would argue, I'll bet you, even people in this room, often don't make that connection, even though it is the most basic one. Nature is on us, in us, in every way. 90% of the cells in your body are not human cells. They have bacteria and fungal cells. Nature's everywhere. And food is one of the best ways to engage kids. If you want kids to eat vegetables, have those kids grow those vegetables. We know that. We know that this works. Schoolyard, there's a whole group of you here who are pioneering the green schoolyard movement, or as Sharon Banks likes to call it, the living schoolyard movement, which I really love as a phrase. The notion that schoolyards can be ecosystems, that they can be places that engage kids not just during the hours of school, but after school, that they can become safe places for nature play throughout the entire day. And I think this is something that these alliances obviously need to focus on. And yet, I keep hearing that schools can be very difficult to work with. There can be intransigence in the fact that there's so much administration, dispersed authority, teachers and administrators are busy, and folks like Sharon are really good at working around those problems, and we have to be aware of them. But there's other places that we can go. Another one that we're really contemplating in Denver, and I'll talk a little bit more about what we're doing in Denver at the very end. Another one we're doing in Denver, we're contemplating very seriously, is outreach programs, after-school outreach programs with students. So some of you may be aware of the Exploratorium in San Francisco, and Oppenheimer, who started that, had this great vision that he wanted the docents in the museum and the first people that folks saw when they walked in the door to be teens, mostly from underserved backgrounds, and diverse, truly diverse, like gender diverse, ethnically diverse, everything. Over 3,000 kids have gone through that program, and when people walk through the door, they see these kids like that. So imagine this. Imagine if every city had a teen, a nature ambassador program for teens, led by national leaders like any in this room, that spanned multiple institutions and allow those teens to have a job that they got paid for, that they could take money home, that we help those kids fill out the paperwork to go to college, and then they then help to become the nature mentors of the future. And imagine if this was a citywide thing in most cities in this country. That would be transformative as well. And that's one of the things that we're talking about in Denver. And then the other part about the present day is understanding what's there. We think, even those of us who are in this room often think, well, there's not that much nature in the city. There's a ton of nature in the city. The Natural History Museum of Los Angeles has launched a citizen science project, 30 different sites all over the city, just to find out what's there, focusing on flying insects. They have discovered not only new occurrences in insects in LA, but brand new, previously undescribed species of flies and other things. We had no clue that it was there. What's even more fascinating as a biologist, anyway, maybe you won't think so, what's even more fascinating to me is that we're just starting to understand the field of urban ecology. And it turns out that cities may be species factories. But because cities break up ecosystems, that they may be breaking up populations of species and causing the evolution of more species very quickly. This is something that we need to understand. Because how are we going to figure out where we're going if we have no clue where we are right now? San Francisco has just launched a biological inventory of the whole city, and just about to do so, under the leadership of the California Academy of Sciences. And we are contemplating the same thing with multiple institutions in Denver. So doing these biological inventories driven by citizen science, so you get all these kids, all these folks in the community helping you, could be a powerful way to understand the baseline today. I'm going to argue that that's not enough. That we need to think about the past. We need to think about it, not just because I'm saying, oh, we need to think about the past for a couple of reasons. Here's one illustration. If you go to the Florida Keys and look at photographs, I'm sorry if you can't really see this on the scribe, and you look at photographs of, those fish that people hauled out on a daily basis off the Keys back in 1958, the fish to the left of the man there is bigger than he is. If we go to 1972, the fish are now far smaller than people. And if we go to 1984, the fish are even smaller. If we go to today, they're tiny. And yet, all these people are damn proud of that fish they're standing with us, right? They think that this is like the championship fish, and this is what we call shipping baseline syndrome. We think that our experience, shipping as kids, is the norm. There's no such thing as a norm. Things are changing all the time, and over the past several generations, things have been going downhill in the natural world, which means that what we think of as the norm today isn't the norm at all. And we better understand what a thriving ecosystem looks like, where we live, if we're going to think about renaturing that place. Where I live in Denver, like literally where I live, right near City Park in Denver, there were black-footed ferrets that ran around in my neighborhood less than a century ago. Now they're being reintroduced into the state. Not long before that, there were bison herds roaming those plains. How many people in Denver, Colorado realize that they live on a short grass prairie? That they are part of that prairie ecosystem. And that ecosystem had big animals in it. We tend to think of Africa as the place of big animals. That is just nonsense. The last 250 million years, every major continent on Earth, other than Antarctica, has been full of big animals. But as humans spread around the planet, we tended to wipe out large animals. And yet, in North America, for example, that was only 13,000 years ago, about 400 human generations. And the ecosystems we live in today still have many ghosts from those ecosystems. And we can learn from looking at those past ecosystems what thriving really means. And getting people to understand those stories is powerful. Going back a step further, how many of you ever think about the fact that where you live, if you live in North America, not that long ago, when people first arrived here, on the order of 13,000, 15,000 years ago, there were mammoths and mastodons and giant ground sloths and saber-toothed cats and dire wolves. It was the Serengeti on steroids, right? That was the norm when people got here. There was a bear called the short-faced bear on Totus that stood 15 feet tall. Imagine encountering that when you're having your peaceful nature walk, right? So it's important that we tell these stories, that we engage people in what has gone on here before. And I don't think in intelligence that's pretty dinosaurs, so I always like to underline for kids the fact that birds are living dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are not extinct. Every single bird alive today is a direct descendant of a small feathered raptor like Velociraptor. Every single bird is a living dinosaur. This means that there are more dinosaurs alive today than right now. That means that if you like to eat chicken and turkey, you like to eat dinosaurs. Also answers the age-old question, what do dinosaurs taste like? But more importantly, these birds mean that you can walk outside and look at a dinosaur. And it's a direct tie-in with the deep time history of one's local place. And we need kids to embrace that as well. We are doing the first culture in human history that is in the developed Western world that doesn't have that real sense of time. We live in this present day, even though science gives us this wonderful story. And this speaks to the power of natural history museums like this one, where I work at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, that are the holders of these collections of history, which are absolutely critical in that the influence of things like global warming and change over time. And natural history museums can be really great allies as you think about doing nature connection in your community. And that brings me to the last part of this, the future. Rich speaks powerfully about this, and the notion that right now our concept of the future is post-apocalyptic, and that we can never be successful in this movement unless we present a vision that people want, are compelled to move towards. So, how do we do that? Well, I would argue that in addition, we also have to get over another thought problem, and that is that humans are separate from nature. We still think about ourselves as being distinct. In fact, cities are designed, were thought of when they were created as a way to separate people from nature. They are nature-free places. They are the places where the wild things aren't, right? So we need to rethink the notion of what it means to be a city, to create a city, to be places where nature thrives. Nature-rich places. What does that look like? And the key here is that it is different for every place. So wherever you live, think about your city in the context of your biome. And think about the city becoming part of that ecosystem, with buildings acting like trees, and cities being like forests, and lots of greenery, native greenery in those species, so the city becomes part of the local ecosystem. This is the kind of nature that we need to develop, and we need to do it now. Sometimes when we talk about children and nature, we get monofocused. We talk about children and nature only. We sometimes focus a lot on health. But I think that if we do this, we are destined to be marginalized. And we need to think more broadly about this movement and where it's going. In addition to health, we have to focus on education. Place-based education. The tragedy that you can go to school in this country and be in a classroom in Tulsa or Seattle or Miami and learn exactly the same thing. No wonder kids are disengaged and they walk outside and nothing they learn in school and they knowledge is where they live. So place-based learning can be absolutely key. And obviously being school is part of that. But economics is a big aspect of this. We know that greening is good for real estate value. We know that greening is great for tourism and all these things. And we need to focus on that depending on our audience. And Bill, I have to point him out because he mentioned this this morning as well. Social justice, connecting kids with nature is a social justice issue. We need to help underserved communities and raise them up. And we do that in part by adding green spaces. In Denver, we're working towards a metric that's been established by the Trust for Public Land to create a park within 10-minute walk of every member of the community. And we want to do that within a generation. That would be powerful too, if we could do it with high quality parks. And finally, there's a notion of sustainability, that we can't get to where we need to with sustainability, or the word I like to use is thriveability, flourishability, whatever it is. We can't get there unless we green our environment and connect people to those environments. So it becomes critical all around. So in Denver, we have this wonderful collaboration that's just getting going. It's being supported by money from Bring Up North Colorado lottery funds. Possibly, very likely, in the millions of dollars. We are super excited about that. And we have the Natural History Museum, the Zoo, the Botanic Garden, the Trust for Public Land, the Nature Conservancy, a higher education institution, DU, and a whole lot of smaller organizations like Environmental Learning for Kids. And we think that we can help to set a national model for how to scale nature connection to the urban level. And we're very excited about doing that. So we hope to launch that this year. We have support from the governor of the state, John Hickenlooper, who has made connecting people with nature one of the major aspects of his administration for the next 4 years. So we're excited about where things are going. I think I'll just, I think I've want to leave you with a challenge. When you leave here, think about how you could create coalition, alliance, where you live, that could scale the nation in one generation. So that the vast majority of people live near a vibrant green space and most experience it on a green space. So we are doing great things. And I don't mean to criticize anything that anyone here is doing, but we need to think about how to scale it up, to make a difference in time. So I challenge you to think about how you can do it in your place. And then we can use meetings like this one as terrific grounds, not just to network, but to really share ideas about how to do that. We need to go from success to significance in a big way if we're going to scale this to really make a difference. So with that, I will end and thank you all very, very much. I have the great pleasure and honor of introducing Director Dr. Jarvis of the National Park. Director Jarvis began his career with the National Park Service in 1976 as a seasonal interpreter in D.C., and today he manages an agency whose mission is to preserve America's most treasured landscapes and cultural archives. His 37-year career has taken him from ranger to resource management specialist to park biologist to superintendent of parks, such as Creators of the Moon and Matt Rainier, and before being confirmed as the 18th director of the National Park Service in 2009, Director Jarvis served as the regional director of the Bureau of Pacific West region. Today, he's responsible for overseeing an agency with more than 22,000 employees, a $3 billion budget, and 407 national parks that attract more than 280 million visitors every year, who generate $30 billion in economic benefit across the region. So $3 billion in Washington, Director John Jarvis.
So, always hazardous to be the last cleanup speaker at the end of the day. So, thank you all for the invitation. It's really a pleasure to be here with this particular organization and all the great work. And it's great to see Rich Liu, where Rich. You know, Rich and I had lunch together right after his first publication, The Last Child Woods, came out, and I was so appreciative that he put pen to paper, something that so many of us deeply believe, but perhaps we can not as articulate as Nathan. You know, Rich, I remember saying to me at that lunch that he wanted to make a difference. And I think he has significantly made a difference in creating the movement. So, you know, this is sort of the last audience to stand up here and tell you anything about this issue. You get it, I get it, and each and every one of you are out there doing something to make a difference. So what am I doing to make a difference? Is sort of what the question is. I manage one of the probably the most popular and recognizable institutions in the country, and for almost 100 years now, we've enjoyed incredible appreciation and support of the American people. And we host a lot of them. In 2014, we had 292 million visitors. And by the way, that is 30 million more than all of the Disney parks, all of National Baseball, all of football, all of basketball, all of hockey, and all of basketball combined. But the issue is not numbers, it's the diversity of the numbers. And we in the parks and conservation and historic preservation community need visitors and constituents and advocates that look like the demographic of the United States. So, as the director, what can I do to really get the entire American public, especially kids and minorities, off the couch, back out experiencing the outdoors? So we have this little thing coming up called the Centennial. And in 2016, the Park Service will be 100 years old. And I will have served for 40 of those years. I have just a few opinions about on this, and a vision. And that vision is that the National Park Service Centennial should have a goal. And that goal is to connect with and create the next generation of park visitors, supporters, and advocates. Now, we've done this before, but not in a long time. Who remembers the line, "See the USA in your Chevrolet"? Okay. Well, that was a partnership with the National Park Service and AAA in the 60s, Mission 66. It was an effort to connect the returning World War II veterans. We invited them to come reconnect with their country. In the back seat of that car were the boomers, and they came in droves, and they had this extraordinary experience connecting with their country, with the best of the country. And let's think about what happened after that, or at least during that. So in the late 60s, as Mission 66 was sort of coming to its end, the bedrock of conservation action legislatively and creation of environmental groups all occurred. We had, in that late 60s, early 70s, Congress passed the Wilderness Act, the Land and Water Conservation Act, the National Historic Preservation Act, the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, the Outdoor Recreation Act, the National Environmental Policy Act, and we had Earth Day, all in that sort of late 60s, early 70s. And so I would say that there is a correlation here between connecting with the outdoors and an activism that really created the bedrock upon which these places have been established and protected and provided the protection of our national and state park system. And in many cases, many of the nonprofit organizations that came out of that same period. These sort of actions and laws really created this constituency and support for the national parks. There's one that Wallace Stegner called America's Best Idea. He also called it the geography of hope. But hope's not a strategy. So we are feeling right now, I think, this wave flattening out, this wave of support that we have enjoyed throughout the sort of tenure of the boomer generation. But now, as the millennial generation rises, we need to reconnect to that generation. So let's take a little lesson from the 60s. And I propose that the Centennial would be an opportunity to raise awareness, to really promote our parks and public lands through modern advertising and techniques. Really bring in the private sector, bring in private philanthropy, hire a top flight firm to really characterize this and launch it. So I'm very proud to say that after nearly 3 years of private fundraising, planning, creative development, and approval, last week we launched the Find Your Park campaign in New York City to a rousing success. We had 2 hours of national park images splashed across the big screens in Times Square as well. This is the Find Your Park website, which we just launched, and I wanted to give you a little introduction to it here quickly. You can see Find Your Park at the top there, Share Your Park, which is an opportunity to tell your story, and Support Your Park. And this isn't all about the national parks. There are other folks to this. Video here for you to see. Some of them tell the story better than me. Okay, the sound will work.
Hello, everyone. I'm thrilled to join you all in celebrating the 100th anniversary of the National Park Service. As part of this celebration, Mrs. Lauren Bush and I are challenging every American to get out and find your park. You can experience natural wonders like Yosemite and the Grand Canyon. You can learn about our history at the Statue of Liberty and Gettysburg. You can take a moment to pause and reflect at a national memorial and monument. I do this every single day because to find my park, all I have to do is get out of bed. That's right, the White House is actually a national park. And I can also find my park and a little bit of my family's history at one of our newest national parks in my hometown of Chicago. My great-grandfather worked as a Pullman porter, and the Pullman National Monument showcases the incredible stories that unfolded there. Stories of the Industrial Revolution and the labor movement and the struggle for civil rights. Stories that are a vital part of our national heritage. So I want to challenge you all to show me how you find your park. Share your experiences online with the hashtag #FindYourPark and visit findyourpark.com to learn more. And for all the families out there, my husband launched the Every Kid in a Park initiative so that every fourth grader in this country and their families can visit our national parks for free. So get out there and have some fun and experience all the beauty and history our great country has to offer. Thank you, and God bless.
You can't beat that, you know? We also have other ambassadors on here. You'll see Bill Nye, the science guy, Terrence J. These are Rangers interspersed here in between. Bella Thorne, young actress coming up through the Disney ranks, and Mary Lambert, a popular singer, and Rosalind Sanchez also as well. This site allows you to post your own story. And I want to make a really key point here. It doesn't say find your national park. It says find your park. And the point here is to draw attention to all of our parks. Urban, a national refuge, a national forest, a state park. We don't really care. We just want them to come. So my charge to this firm was to create a media outreach that would reach the millennial generation and not upset our base. And that was a bit of a tall order. But that's not all we're doing. Find Your Park is just one piece of this antenna. I want to talk about a few others, and then I'm going to get to the details of everything. So we started a series of theme studies to identify sites that are important to the history of Latinos, to Asian American and Pacific Islanders, to the LGBT community, and to women. We are looking for new national park sites that tell more diverse stories of America and bring them to the president for designation as national monuments. And so far, he's established Fort Monroe, Harriet Tubman, Cesar Chavez, Honolulu, and recently Pullman, that you saw Mrs. Obama talk about. And on Monday, for you Texans, I was in Waco, and we had a public meeting about the potential of Waco Mammoth as a new national monument, new national park, which has got huge educational opportunity, a fantastic public meeting. And I was up on stage, and one of the folks said, well, how does Waco Mammoth meet your criteria for the relevance of women and minorities? And I said, all the mammoths were female. We have partnered with the National Geographic Society, Brand USA, and Disney to use their considerable media capacity to promote the parks to the Find Your Park campaign. And I've tasked all 407 national parks throughout the system in every state to pick a centennial action or event in 15 and 16 that directly connects to the next generation. We're partnering with the medical and public health community with our Healthy Parks, Healthy People initiative. And we now have over 150 programs nationwide where doctors are literally prescribing the outdoors to treat obesity, heart disease, cancer, and depression. Next week at the City Parks Alliance, we will launch our urban agenda, which is I'll be placing NPS coordinators in a dozen cities around the nation to really serve directly to underserved communities, and create parks where none exist now. Just a few weeks ago, I spent a day in Detroit, traveling around with the mayor to look at what he is doing to rebuild the city that has really gone through a pretty pretty much the bottom of, and is now rebuilding with an opportunity to basically recreate parks in neighborhoods that never happened before by teardowns of abandoned homes and businesses. We're also announcing our new Urban Land Water Conservation Fund grant program to improve parks, specifically local communities. But I know this audience really wants to talk about everything in park. But let me tell you one more story. So to just give you a sense of how willing we are to really be fearless in our commitment to this next generation. So a couple of weeks ago, in partnership with several other organizations, we were sort of right in the period of the commemoration of the voting rights march in Selma, Alabama. And so we invited a group of high school students from Ferguson, Missouri. And we invited a group of high school students from Little Rock, Central High. And we put them on a bus, and we brought them to Washington, D.C. And we took them to Martin Luther King, we took them to Douglas Home, all that. And on that bus, we had some elder civil rights leaders, and as well as park rangers. And we met with Secretary Duncan at the Department of Education. We did not talk to them. They talked to us. We let them tell us their story. And then we took them to Selma. And over a period of a week, they walked, hiked the Selma Montgomery Trail, 54 miles, each day doing about 8 or 10 miles. And then we brought them back and they camped in a place called Tent City, which is where many of the African Americans who were kicked out of their homes after the Selma Montgomery March 50 years ago and were forced to live. So they were camping in those locations, walking in their footsteps. And we stood up wireless into their campsite so that each night when they returned to their hike, they could share this experience over social media. So we are building in relevance from the past to contemporary society around issues like civil rights, which is a social justice issue as well. We talked about, and Scott talked about the biological surveys. We've been doing these biolenses for about a decade now. And this year, we will bring 750 students and 150 scientists to complete a 24-hour biological survey of Hawaiian volcanoes. I believe you should sign up for that. Yeah, that's coming up in May. And in 2016, we're going to do a nationwide biolense. We're going to stand it up in Washington, D.C., and ask for parks across the nation to run their own biological surveys over the same 24-hour period and get an inventory of the biology of the nation, all part of citizen science. So this is something we should be paying attention to. We're getting some information out through our web, through this site, and through National Geographic for this fantastic opportunity to get kids out in these parks. We're working with the core network to build youth programs. We've got a goal for 20,000 youth each year to get kids out and building skills and discovering themselves as well. And then there's Every Kid in the Park. So this is somewhat of an outgrowth of the Let's Move program that was started by Mrs. Obama. We brought her Let's Move Outside, which was a component of the Let's Move program, really emphasizing exercising the outdoors. And so Every Kid in the Park was somewhat of a logical next step. And it really began in an interactive discussion at the White House with the presidential advisor, John Podesta. And he started out with the premise that, well, why don't you do every kid in the nation? That's 55 million kids, right? I'm not sure we can pull that off. So we pondered this for a while and talked to a lot of people and really began to focus on fourth grade. And so you ask, why fourth grade? Particularly if you're a parent, you have a fifth grade. What about So there are three criteria that really drove us to fourth grade. One is that fourth graders are still in homeroom, that those fourth grade classes are still studying their state history, and based on the research, fourth graders and younger still listen to an adult. So we started working out all the details and figuring out the partners and how we're going to pay for this. And suddenly the president is talking about it, which makes it really real. So in February, in front of a very large audience, Rich Lou was there, this is close to thousands of people, the president said, and this is right out of his speech, this is President Obama. And that's why, starting this fall, we're going to help a new generation of Americans experience our God-given grandeur by giving every fourth grader in America what we're calling an Every Kid in the Park pass. A pass good for free admission to all public lands, for you and your family for an entire year. We want every fourth grader to have the experience of getting out and discovering America. We want them to see the outside of the classroom, see all the places that make America great. Put down that smartphone for a second. Put away the video games. Breathe in some fresh air and see this incredible bounty that's been given to us. No matter who you are, no matter where you live, our parks and our monuments, our lands, our waters, these places are the birthright of all. So, of course, we're, high-fiving and saying, yes, the president, and we're like, oh, shit, well, we've got to deliver this. Once he says it, there's no, failure is not an option, right? So, here, I'll give you a little detail. So, we're working on the concept right now. We haven't worked this out. But essentially that a student, fourth grade student in the classroom, would participate in some sort of online educational experience. And they, once completed, they would download a voucher. That voucher would be in the backpack that goes home. When presented to any of our fee areas across the entire public lands, that's Park Service, Fish and Wildlife Service, BLM, Forest Service, and Army Corps of Engineers, they would get a pass. And we would produce a unique pass for this. And that would give that pass to them and their family or anybody that's in the car free access to these public lands for a full year. All the agencies are in. All the federal agencies are totally in. That's 30% of the land base of the United States, by the way. We are working with the Department of Education on what is that sort of educational piece. How does this work? Because it's not just going to be one thing. It could be geology. It could be climate change. It could be civil rights. It could be state history. We don't care. We wanted to have some educational component that relates to the classroom experience that fourth grade teacher is needed. We're trying not to burden them with an additional workload. We want them to be more successful. There is an intent to be a follow-up to this so that when we get to back into the classroom, we can not only get a sense of measurement of that they went, but the learning aspect of this as well. We're very interested in this from a kind of a research standpoint, because if you think about this, that we've got a 4 million size pool, we've got roughly 4 million fourth graders out there. And I think as Rich and others said, our goal is we want to do this every year, or at least a dozen years. And then you got every kid in the nation. They do get a trip to the park and have that kind of fantastic experience. My budget for fiscal 16 that is before the Congress right now has $11.5 million in it for transportation grants, specifically to Title I schools. That's our focus of that. And the National Park Foundation, my philanthropic foundation, has committed to raise the private side of this. If you had to pay for every kid, all 4 million, it's roughly on average about $10 a pop, so that's $40 million. No big deal. And we need all of you in this. There's no way that we can do this alone. This is not every kid gets a free trip to a national park. It's to a park. And fantastic venues out there, state parks, local parks, regional parks, national forest lands, all of that out there. And we want them to have that kind of experience. To really make this successful, we need partners with the education field. With teachers, with school administrators, with group leaders, after school programs, all of those parents. And again, I want to emphasize that our We're really aiming for all 4 million, but our priority is the underserved community, the ones that have never had that chance to have that kind of outdoor experience as well. And we will work with all of these parties to really figure out their educational and recreational objectives as well, and remove as many barriers as possible. We have the White House behind it. We have all of our organizations on the federal side. We have the state National Association of State Park Directors fully supporting this as well. And I think all of you know that this could be life-changing these days. So let me just read you, close with just a really quick letter here. This is a letter that I received when I was the regional director in Pacific for a program that we were running at Point Reyes National Seashore with really the inner city keys of the lake, kids in the lake. Bride Jean told her mother that she had better start saving up because next year she wanted to go for 2 weeks. Bride Jean's mother told me that J.O.'s brother broke down sobbing on the way home because he did not want to go home. Nicholas would not remove the sand from his feet and his legs because he wanted to take it home. This was a way of keeping his experience alive. And even though he missed his mom, he didn't want to go home. Andrea couldn't sleep because she was overwhelmed by all her new experiences. She had seen the Milky Way for the first time. All these students have a serious shot at college and upward mobility that higher education will provide. Without you, Helen, these kids would not have the opportunity to participate in education at a top-rated place with unique setting. Research indicates that the experiences children have during their elementary school years have the largest impact on shaping their futures. These opportunities that are provided these kids will have the potential of long-reaching effects. Now, I know that each and every one of you have letters like that. We need to pull them out every once in a while and remind ourselves of the work that we do. So let's go out there and do this for every fourth grader in the nation. And let's do it for 12 years in a row so that we reach every child in the nation with a meaningful, life-changing experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andy Jarvis, and thank you so much, Scott Sampson. We're so appreciative of your being here and sharing all of this with us and the great news that's out there. I'm Margaret Lamar. I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives for the Children in Nature Network, and I'm thrilled to see all of you here. I know we've had a great day. I have one thing that I want to mention is that we not only have one National Park Director in the House, but we have two. Fran Manella is also here. She was the 16th Director of the National Park Service. And Director of the National Park Service, which is very exciting. Thanks, Fran. Fran is on the board of the Children in Nature Network, of course, which is very exciting for us. We're going to have her here with us. So I'm directing the Children in Nature Network's partnership with the National League of Cities. And that partnership will seek to implement some of this vision that you have and some of these initiatives that you have. And we hope that you'll all bring to the Children in Nature Network all of your innovation and all of your ideas as we go out and talk to city leadership across the country. We're excited about all of this new tipping point that we see happening. I think this room is a testament to that for sure. So thank you so much for all of your experiences that you brought forward today. I do want to say a couple of things about our logistics for the rest of the conference. Today has been an incredible day, hasn't it? And it doesn't end. When we first started planning this conference, and Jennifer can attest to this, we thought, we'll get a couple hundred people. That would be so exciting to get 200 people. And then, you know what, we'll do a one-day conference. That's enough. We can have a lot of people here for a couple hundred people for a day. Well, it turned into 2 days with a 10 Technology and Nature Summit. And then it turned into 3 days. And it's been an exciting 3 days already, and we have another day to go tomorrow. So I have some logistics I want to cover with you. First of all, after this, there is going to be some book signing and some book selling out in the hallway. We have Last Child in the Woods for sale throughout the conference. Rich is going to be signing those tomorrow morning after his keynote, so please feel free to come get him to sign those books. Scott Sampson has just published an amazing book, How to Raise a Wild Child. Please go out in the lobby and purchase his book, and he'll be there to sign some books if you've already purchased them. And also, Asphalt to Ecosystem. So Asphalt to Ecosystems is also for sale out there, which is a book that's really instrumental in instructing us on how to transform school grounds. So those books are for sale out in the lobby. I also have a survey that I would really love for you guys to fill out for us. Those of you who are going to be here tomorrow do not need to do it. If you are going to leave today, I'd like for you to raise your hand if you could, and we can have those passed out to you. Is that okay? Can you guys raise your hands if you're going to leave today? Nobody's leaving? That is great. That is so great. We have tomorrow morning, one more thing about today, a couple more things about today. Texas Children in Nature, which is the amazing 6th regional campaign here in Texas, they're going to be posting out on the Pecan Court right out here where we've been eating. There's going to be some regional